got one Friday, Thursday.
Yeah, I only got 3 hairs to cut.
Split your hair, will you? So anyhow, at the request of the board, we went back and updated the to-do list or list that's going on. We set it up. We can walk through. Specific ones. I see Mike Wild joining, so let's give him a second.
Ellie, is that feeding back to your computers there?
I'm sorry?
We're getting some feedback when we talk. Wait.
Oh, let me mute. But am I going to do attendance, Dave?
Yes, please do attendance.
Okay. Let me do that now and I'll mute. Hopefully that'll help.
Okay.
All right. Craig Leggett.
Here.
Michael Biddle.
Hello.
Brian Campbell. No. Ginny Sullivan.
Here.
Mike Wild.
Good afternoon.
Dan Bruno.
Here.
Bruce Ferguson.
Here.
Nick Caimano.
Here.
Dave O'Brien.
He's here, I guess.
Kara. And Lester.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So there she goes. She muted herself, so hopefully it stops the feedback. So I updated the spreadsheet of what we're doing and where it's at. And I know the best way to handle it. Do you want to go item by item, or do people have specific questions they'd rather spend time on? It's your feedback. I know we sent it out last week, so you had a chance to look at it. What's your preference?
Item by item.
Okay. So we know we extend the due diligence period to July 29th. The first is a purchase and sale agreement. Subdivision approval on the lots to be conveyed to the IDA. We have upcoming meetings on June 10th, June 17th, and I think it's June 25th when we expect approval on the subdivision. Some of this is being held in conjunction with WL Plastics. We don't have as many issues as they do, and ours is a pretty straightforward, though there's a lot of pieces to it. And Kara, if there's anything you want to expand on, just give me your hand and we'll go from there. It's raise your hand, don't give me a hand. We did the contract amendment. It was approved by the board on 4/30 and submitted to the council on 5/23, and a follow-up on 6/4. The rail service agreement, we'll talk about this for a second. The rail service agreement, I think everyone's seen it and read it. We looked at it, and at the request of the board, we went out to look at the assignment liability issue and get a quote from a rail attorney. And I would like Kara to fill in on that. I think that there's a little bit of surprise. So Kara, if you take over from there.
Yeah, I reached out to one attorney who was recommended to us. I do also have the name of the attorney that the county is using, so I can always reach out to them. They are at Harder, Seacrest, and Emory. They're outside of Rochester, and we've consulted with them in the past for other clients when we don't have someone in our office that practices in a certain area. So we have an existing relationship working with them in the past. So I reached out. I had a conference call with the attorney Leslie Connolly last week, and basically the gist of what I understand is that she probably focuses in environmental law. She was willing to prepare an opinion based on liability concerns with environmental aspects as it applies to a rail. She did have an opportunity to briefly look at the agreement in advance of our call, and she acknowledged that it includes all the standard language that you would see in this type of language regarding indemnification, liability pieces that the rail company agreed to indemnify the owner of the property. with respect to the assignment piece, she wanted to reach out to her partner to have him review the agreement, to get his opinion on whether or not it runs with the owner of the underlying lands. So she said she thought she could do that in probably 5 hours, prepare an agreement. And so I said, well, send me the quote because I need to get it approved by the board. I explained to her that we have a municipal rate review, you're a municipal entity. She obviously understood that, but the quote's $5,000. So I sent it to Dave to take a look at. She did say that if that was above the IDA's budget for something like this, that she would be willing to work within, consider reducing it. So I can go back to her if you think that that's too high. I can reach out to another attorney. But that's the quote that we received.
So if I look at this, I mean, she basically reinforced the liability issues, that the agreement covers the liability issues. And I think that the issue that we're most interested in is the assignment of the contract and where that goes. So I don't think we need the full blown, but I think that we need to focus on the assignment issue. And is that really someone we need a railroad attorney for, or could we get that opinion from other people, other attorneys that could read the agreement to figure out the assignment piece of it, just for our protection? I mean, we've already got two or three opinions that the SMS agreement transfers with or stays with the property. Is that correct, Kara?
Yes. The issue is I don't know that it's necessary to spend additional resources on another opinion that is in line with our opinion. The issue is really we need to get WCC on board with that to discuss it. I mean, if they wanted to maintain that it's not assignable, then and they don't want to negotiate that piece, I don't think it matters how many attorneys indicate that this is their reading of it. You'd have to have it go to a court scenario to have an ultimate decision maker on that. I mean, certainly I can reach out to other attorneys in the area. I mean, everybody I'm sure on this call has a relationship with an attorney they could reach out to. But I think the paramount point is to get WCC on board that acknowledges that this is the case. And I guess I don't know what it's going to take for them to do that.
My last discussion with Zach Middleton, who has been working on them with this, is that they are working on putting something together that sort of acknowledges it. The real issue is the appendix A of the agreement. The appendix. Try to get some feedback here, so I don't know who's on there. So the only one.
Mr. Biddle, I see your green light surrounding your face when the feedback happens, so it might be your computer.
Okay. What is Tattletale? It's right in front of us all, Michael. There's no tattletale. So they're working on that, and I did receive some feedback that it's up in their priorities to get that done. So I think they acknowledge it, but as I said, the problem with the agreement is Appendix A is not as clear as it should be. And that's one thing that has to be cleared up a little bit. My recommendation has been to clean the agreement up, to add the IDA or FLDBC, or then the IDA to the agreement, and then clarify the appendix because it's a little unclear. But the rail spans properties that was owned by both, by WCC all at one time. Now it's a split between FLDBC and the Fort Edward LPDC. So I think that we need to get that clarified. That's where I think it is. And Kara, you're the legal opinion, not me.
Sorry, I keep muting myself. Yeah, I think that's where the issue resolves. We need to have them come to the table and negotiate with us on that piece. Certainly the agreement needs to be clarified, along those lines.
Any
We don't
questions? Go ahead.
agreement amended or assigned to us as it applies to us, then we don't have the protection, we don't have the indemnification language specifically to us. That's why we need some piece of that, so that does run to us from the rail company.
And without that, to me, it's something we'll have to think really hard about, how we proceed from that aspect. Indemnification.
We have a way to proceed there, Dave.
Pardon?
Dave, do
Yeah.
we have a way to get there? Why have we not moved forward? We know what the issue is, and we have to reach an agreement. Why has that not started to take shape? I guess is my concern.
It has started to take shape. It's just not where I want it at this point. If we don't get something next couple of days, I'll be out of pocket tomorrow and part of Wednesday. So my plan is to follow up with them on Wednesday afternoon when I can see. But that's my plan right now.
Okay. I didn't know if there was something we needed more to do to make it happen, because we need to push June 30th is going to be here quicker than you know.
Yeah, and I realize that. I think the leverage we have is Ford at LDPC getting involved to push, because our deal is with Ford at the LBDC.
Right.
And they're the ones that are going to have to clear this up. Or at least initiate it. And they're on board. I talked to Zach about a few minutes ago.
Right, that's the first thing, is that Ford Edward LDC needs to come up with an agreement with WCC, and then we take over from Ford Edward LDC. Is that the lineage?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions on that issue? Is someone wants to proceed any differently?
So there was a question of whether we should go with the special attorney. Well, I think we're dropping that, right? We're just
Yeah, we should. I think Kara is right. If they agree with a reason to spend more money.
right. Agreed.
Okay, title insurance is ordered, will be finalized when the subdivision map's approved. Deed will not be finalized until subdivision maps are approved and the final description prepared. Phase 1 environmental is complete. Survey is in the, I think the survey, I know the survey's been finalized. You look at a copy of that once it's approved, once the subdivision is approved. Oh, I did something myself. As far as the road acquisition, for subdivision approval, again, that's been submitted to town and village. The meeting dates are noted above. I need to coordinate fees and escrow deposit amount with Attorney Fuller ongoing. That's for the fees for the subdivision process. So Kara's working that through with Ford Edward. And I know that with the attorneys, and I know that I think that people didn't realize that this is subdivision is part of something we're going to turn over to the town of Fort Edward fairly quickly after we close, because they want the road, and we'll go from there. Survey again, be finalized. Title, same status. Fort Edward LBC, as soon as the subdivision map is approved, and that's a WL subdivision, then we'll need to approve the acquisition once the subdivision is approved for the property within the park, the balance property within the park. There's a small piece of the Fort Edward parcel that we need to take to complete the road from all the way from 196 all the way into the facility. The deed has been finalized and approved. I do not have a physical copy of the signed deed in my hand as of this point, but I expect it shortly. New York State parcel, that little triangle piece. Yeah, go ahead.
Dave, can you clarify on the road what you just said? Did you say Fort Edward was getting part of the road?
Fort Edward will take the road from the Kingsbury line, or the Fort Edward line, all the way into the facility. They want that piece of road because they need a public road, but it also gives them additional CHIPS money for their use to maintain the road.
Well, I remember earlier in our discussion, I'm not trying to throw a wrench in this, but earlier in our discussion was some of us keeping the road was going to be leverage on where those disqualifications were on getting to the wharf and things like that. And once we give up the road, we don't have any opportunity of any leverage there. I want to put that back out there because I know that was brought to our attention at one point that was a leverage piece. And now if this is simply gone, there's no leverage on that at all. And anybody else can chime in if I'm wrong, but if I remember, that's what the discussion was.
Well, we had talked about using that for leverage for the bridge funding, but in discussions with Beth and Laura Oswald, Beth at Gillies and Laura Oswald, that they felt that it was strong enough, the grants were strong enough as they stood without that piece. They didn't think it'd make any difference. There was a.
I wasn't referring to the bridge funding.
Okay.
I wasn't referring to the bridge funding. I think Mike Biddle knows what I was referring to.
Yeah, Brian, or Mr. Chairman, and Brian, I think we still hold leverage with the bridge and the rest of the road going from the bridge out to 196. You know what I'm saying? Or does that make sense?
It makes sense. I just remember it a little different when we had the initial conversation. So I just wanted to make sure that we're still in line as to what our original thinking was, if something hadn't changed in our philosophy. That's all.
No, that's a great point.
I think it's a good point, Brian. I still think that it would be prudent for us to investigate the southern access point. As we talked about, going out East Street, not going out East Street, going out that road to East Street and get that extension of the road between there and 197. I still think that's prudent. And I think we need to investigate that. But I think Fort Edward itself, the village of Fort Edward, is very interested in finding a way to create the road from there all the way into Fort Edward so they get traffic in there.
I have no problem with how we proceed. I just want to clarify that we're still on the same pattern.
On the same pattern. I think having Fort Edward own the road actually gives us a little more leverage because now you got a public entity involved in the process.
Understand.
Carrie, your input? Yeah, that's good input.
Sorry. Well, I think at this juncture, the plan is to proceed with the road as we've discussed, and then look into the other acquisition at a later date. No, I mean,
I think so. Yes. All set on that issue? Again, it talks about the WCC parcels and the New York State parcel. That New York State parcel, I've rung the bell a few people, and that's supposed to be coming along. Easement road maintenance agreement, we have a draft, and Bruce is on the phone talking to us. Easement road maintenance agreement, that's out for discussion with WCC and WL, so we hope to get a comment on it and get back to them, because we'll need to issue approval for the road maintenance agreement and easement. Questions?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Mr. Biddle.
Mr. Chairman, is WL and WCC on board for the cost of the Kingsbury portion of the road?
in theory, we've talked about this before. We're still waiting on getting some, we're still waiting to get feedback, but the discussion is that we would take the road, and part of the road would be help for maintenance agreement. In theory, they were. Now it comes down to actual negotiations, so we'll figure out what happens from here.
I believe it's been front and center for WL, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and
WL is on board. We're still waiting for feedback from WCC.
That was my question. Thank you so much, sir.
Liability insurance?
That we need to circle back around on to be sure with respect to the road and the purchase. I know you've already discussed the policy that's available to you and the cost, but we just need to circle back around with that before we take title of anything.
Yeah, I had a meeting with the insurance agent last week, and he's going out for a quote. So he should be getting back to me this week.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So what part of the road are we liable for vis-a-vis insurance? I know the bridge, but if Fort Edward's taking the road?
He would be responsible for the 0.6 miles.
From the bridge to Kingsbury to 196?
Correct.
Thank you so much.
And closed sale transaction, the WL transaction, and then the IDA transaction.
Yeah, we can't take that final step until the town and village issues its secret determination. So once they are able to do their environmental analysis, then we can go ahead and adopt our final closing resolution that would adopt the environmental, and then that would also authorize the execution of the closing documents, etc.
And what's the timing on that as far as the seeker?
I think we'll know more after tomorrow we have a meeting, or not tomorrow, Wednesday, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Wednesday.
Wednesday evening is a plan. And then there's another, the planning board is the 10th, and then the zoning board meeting is the 17th. And then I think they're gonna have a follow-up meeting either the 24th or the 25th. I think they do them on Wednesdays, so the 24th. So if the boards want to, I think that would be the timing, if they want to do their final approval then.
I think that's the target.
So to clarify that, everything is gonna be, is everything gonna be figured in to make the June 30th deadline? Is that the timeline we're on? Is the June 30th closing?
That's the timeline we hope to be able to complete.
So we will be having a special meeting ahead of that to adopt everything, so we're both ready to go? Is that the way we're looking at it, or?
We can't, until they adopt their resolution, we cannot adopt ours. Our initial approval was contingent upon theirs. So we'll have to schedule a special meeting to do our final approval once they approve the environmental. I think we're gonna have more information on Wednesday once we see what's addressed at Wednesday's meeting, this Wednesday at the planning board level.
So either way, that all has to take place before the closing. I just want to make sure we're still on the timeline.
Correct.
We should know more after, like Kara said, we should know more after tomorrow night on the timing and the approvals needed.
Yeah, I mean, once we're going to have a better idea of the timing, and then, we can get a special meeting scheduled in advance, even though we can't have it yet, just to make sure that we have a quorum and people can be available. So, once we have a better idea, I think we'll have more information after Wednesday.
Well, we have a meeting on Monday, so we'll bring it up to date on then. We'll have more information. If I get more information, I'll send it out too. Okay? Any other questions? Okay, next subject is solar. Mr. Biddle and I had a conversation with a group of solar people who want to put solar into Washington County. I will send out the information. It will change, but basically they're looking to get pilots to cover the solar. And actually this happened after the conversation we had about rethinking solar. They've made a couple suggestions and inroads, but I think that what they put together had been advance payments. And what they would do is go through and they bond the money or we bond the money and they give us advance payments for taxing jurisdictions. That seems to me that it's unworkable and probably unacceptable. What they were looking at doing is that I think we need to go into a format that really addresses each project on its own merit in terms of a pilot. Now, part of the conversation, which wasn't highlighted as much as it should have been, is to them, a pilot doesn't necessarily mean less taxes. What they're more interested in, because utility has such a small margin, is they're really interested in saying for 25 years, here's the fixed cost of our taxes. And the pilots are built around not so much paying less taxes, but in some cases pay more taxes so that they have the surety of the fixed costs. So I think that's one thing. And what I'd like to do is, towards approval, and this would be a good schooling lesson on our solar pilots, is to have them make a presentation next Monday night about solar so we can think about whether we want to go forward or not. I think the next step from there would be have them fill an application. And again, I think from my personal view, and I'll listen to everything they've got to say, but I think we should think about this as a possibility. They're also looking at sort of customer sharing, so that I'm not quite sure how it works, but essentially for customer experience, they get a credit on their electrical bills or towards a 10% electrical costs. So if their bill's $150 a month, they get a credit of $15. How that's paid out and how it's structured, I'm not sure. So there is customer benefit as well as pilot benefits. But with the approval of the board, I'd like to invite them next Monday so they can fill us in, at least get a start on it, so we can decide if this is something we want to proceed with or not proceed with. Again, we started talking about solar, but I'd like to at least start to hear them out.
Dave, I'll make the motion. I want to have a little discussion before we go further, but I'll make the motion that we move forward to have them come in, and then I'll wait for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to second that. Michael Biddle.
Motion by Mr. Campbell, second by Mr. Biddle. Discussion?
Chairman, it's Mike.
Okay,
Yes, Mike.
Thank you, Brian. I would like to see more than one prospective solar installer, solar owner, whatever we want to call them, come in, so we can get a sense of what the industry is doing, not just what one guy's trying to accomplish, right? I always get nervous when we make a decision based on one proposal, primarily because of my experience in the region.
Mike, this is where I was going to go. This group represents 8 different firms that are all doing solar, and they're trying to put in a cute little package to make it look like they all get the same type of deal, but they all have to have their own deal that fits them. I stepped out and called it a scheme to get the reaction. And it is a scheme. It's a gimmick. Everything we've talked with solar and hydroelectric and everything over the past 5 to 10 years in both counties has been, it's not a Ponzi scheme. I don't know what kind of scheme it is, but the whole thing, you were left with a lot of liability, and they are left with all the reward. The reward they talk about, it's there if you go by their figures. If you extrapolated it all out yourself, you might find out different. However, Dave had a nice conversation, he said, with Laura Oswald, and I believe I just got a few bits of that from Laura. I think what the deal is, they can't change their value of what they have to pay as if they were paying taxes and they go up every year. So they have to have a set amount that they figure in because nothing changes over the 25 years for them. So even if it was higher taxes, we have to have an idea of what that number should be for these areas over the next 25 years and extrapolate that number instead of what the number is today, where you're kind of beating each other in the shoulder for no reason. And I think that doing them all together, it's not an all bad idea. It's just going to take a lot of due diligence on our part to realize whether it's as beneficial. It's going to be beneficial. It's not probably as beneficial as they think. It's probably not as risky as we think. We need to find the fine line. You just got to be careful on what they tell you, how they tell you, and what is actually real. Like I said, we've heard through so many of these groups over the past 5 years that our county is just as a mistrust to start with, whether that be right or wrong. But I think there is value and the due diligence should be done. But we're not going to want to go into these things blind. We're going to want to go in wide open. I guess that's where I come from.
And just to follow on with that, Brian, these guys have what's called a power purchase agreement. They sell the power, and they sell that power on a long-term commitment. So they have pretty much a great idea of what their revenue is going to be. So we just need to make sure that, they're not taking us for a ride, and that's all there is. That's all I was concerned about.
I absolutely agree with you, Mike and Brian. I absolutely agree that there's still a lot of work to do. This sort of came up as a coincidence to starting our discussions about potentially doing with solar. And we got a lot of learning process to go, and that's important to me. But I think that the growth of solar is going to be championed by the state and the federal government, and we know our governor is championing that, so we should at least try and make it worthwhile for our residents one way or another.
Mr. Chairman, we need this is a 25-year guess. I think Brian is right. It's a 25-year guess. We need somebody who knows some stuff about all this to predict into the future. I mean, people like Biddle and I won't be around 25 years from now, so we need to have some ideas of where this is going. And I don't have that kind of background. I don't know if anybody on this board here has that. So we need some help on that.
Absolutely. I'm not going into this blind-eyed. I mean, the first proposal they sent out was numbers were more than beneficial for the IDA, but I always learned if something looks too good to be true, guess what?
Well, you sent out some stuff about other counties and what they do for pilots. Should we be talking to them? Do they ask them who they've used for a consultant and figure out where we're going?
The answer is yes.
Okay.
So a motion to bring him in, made and seconded. If there's no other discussion, I'll take a vote.
Hello.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Maybe. Carry. Any other business come before the board? All right, thank you all for coming. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Nick.
Moved by Nick. Do I have a second? Second.
Hey, I have a question.
Yes?
I have a question for Campbell. This is the first meeting I haven't seen you laugh through most of the meeting. Must be because of your new job, huh?
That could have a little something to do with it.
Okay, good.
Thanks for the comic relief though, Nick. I appreciate it.
Okay,
Always
thank you all.
appreciate it.
All in favor to adjourn?
All right.
Aye.